we got a special treat for you today. We have a series of back-to-back pilot logs here that actually took place a little bit sooner in the timeline, but I was hyper-focused on getting all that concentrated lesbianism out, and accidentally forgot to get this one down. I'll be injecting it into the post where it falls into the timeline and letting everybody know where it falls in the timeline. But yeah, this first one is a message, a pilot log between Isadora and Zoe Lynx, the scientist on the Adalith who was studying the slime.
Alright, so as we enter the scene, Zoe is in her office, poring over notes, just looking over them, scribbling some stuff down, when Isadora comes in. Not like out of breath or anything, but definitely had a spring in her step getting here. And she says, "Hey Zoe, does calling me over mean you have or haven't found something interesting?"
Zoe perks up. Have! The samples you provided have been quite helpful.
So what's up with these things? We've fought a few of them, but we still have no idea why they've been appearing.
Well, first things first, I can say for certain these are manufactured. With a living specimen, and one that was more intact, I could study their brains. From a basic glance, their brains have been completely wiped. I had no idea how these things were even capable of thought until I could detect AI patterns on the living specimen. She's buzzing with excitement. Yes.
AI patterns
Science.
on an organic brain?
Exactly! Though I have no idea what point of such a thing is. Granted, my understanding is limited, but I would think using an organic brain would greatly limit the potential of any AI you could install. But I suppose, even within the limits, the AI creatures can still be used to drive mechs.
Anything else?
Yes, the larger creature you brought in was quite helpful in determining how these creatures came to be. The gamer was boasting about something when you returned, something about them, she makes air quotes, evolving.
That's the word, yes.
That's not quite the case. I would call it devolving instead.
How so?
She pushes up her glasses. The beast you brought in looks and has a very similar DNA to a species of animal found on another planet in Overture, a cresting wolf. Native to a mountainous planet in this system, I've still not found exactly what alterations to the wolf here, but I had another idea. Looking at what you brought in so far, I realized I could simulate further breakdown of the creature's DNA. She rubs her hands together.
And the results?
Absolute gibberish! She's delighted by this, but a very similar type of gibberish to the goo's DNA.
So, it wasn't the slimes becoming the larger animals, it was the other way around.
Yes! In an experiment that is highly illegal and morally horrifying, by the way. Someone has taken creatures and altered them for use in mech piloting.
But why? It seems like a lot of effort to go through for something an NHP could just do.
That I still don't understand. And I've made no progress in expunging any information off their brains. I think I might be able to glean something off how they interact with mechs, but that's about it.
I see. What about the creature we got from the Deliverance mission? Anything on that?
Oh, yes, but that's a different kind of fascinating. She moves like she pulls up the different data and says, so these things, interestingly enough, the technology that I found in the samples you brought me from these oozes is very, very similar and yet not similar enough to the technology that was also in these creatures you found on that mission. Looking at them, there's nothing weird about their brains, and yet the technology is wired throughout their brains. Invasively, I may say. Judging from them, they naturally normally have eyes. It looks like their eyes were removed. This is utterly inhumane, by the way. These things seem smart, smarter than they were behaving on the stream. And then she pulls up the stream. However, and then she fast forwards to a timestamp. At this point, when Lyra blows off the communicator that the commander was using, and then she plays it in slow motion, notice their behavior changes. And yeah, you can see like they twitch and they start to act more willfully. So some kind of technology is being used to control these things. That's not good if it can be more broadly applied to people of our nature.
I see, so we can tell that the Deliverance at least has a leash on these things then.
Indeed, and these things are also leashed to each other. They have some kind of, for lack of a better word, hive mind. Notice how they seem to soundlessly, and it is completely soundless. She forwards to the point where like the one is screaming in into your face, but is making no sound. If you remember from the mission when that happened,
Mm-hmm.
it is completely silent, but they are communicating with each other somehow, and that's all I can discern just from a summary autopsy of these beings. If you were to acquire a living one again, I would probably be able to discern more. But these might be people-based things.
Hmm. I see. Well, this is pretty serious. I'll have to inform Bryn.
Of course, if you happen to bring any more samples in, it would help a lot. Otherwise, I'll just keep bashing my head against this brain AI thing.
You have fun with that.
She gives you a thumbs up and then pushes back up her glasses because they slid back down her nose again and turns back to what she was doing. All right, the next pilot log, Marcus Steele, the CEO, like head of Harrison Armory, and Melior Lambert, who is the benevolent shepherd, aka the leader of the faction Deliverance, go on a date. Enjoy.
Alright, so we cut into a very pleasant restaurant. Hmm, this would probably be in Deliverance space, right?
Oh, absolutely. Feel free to name a Deliverance planet. They're usually named after like words that mean good things that have now been co-opted to be bad things,
Hmm,
like sanctuary or haven or you know things of that nature.
nice
Yeah.
pad. The planet Nice Pad. Uh, so yeah, Deliverance restaurant then probably wouldn't be like super high
It
class.
can be. I mean, Deliverance does have fancier, like opulent societies. It tries to keep it humble and keep that under wrap, but that stuff does exist. What it does is it makes it so like technically anybody can get into it, but you know how that kind of stuff works out. The people that like the anybody who could get into it are the special people, and the everybody else feels too intimidated and unworthy to go in naturally without there needed to be gates or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Marcus Steele is not one of those people, though. He is at a table. He's doing like the Von Karma animation from Phoenix Wright, if you know that one where he's just like intensely sort of doing the arm fold but gripping one of his arms. That one.
Mm-hmm. Marcus Marcus Steele.
He's just Von Karma but without hair.
Mm-hmm. Marcus Steele is here because he's been invited out to a scrumptious luncheon, an unforgettable luncheon with Melior Lambert, the benevolent shepherd of Deliverance. Is he dressed up at all? Does he presume it is a date? Because there wasn't any like overt suggestion that this was a date. More of a let's hang out and talk. Pleasure instead.
So,
Like it was like the message was let's talk pleasure, not business. But it wasn't like a this is a date.
mm-hmm. So yeah, he would not assume dates. So he'd be wearing something nice, probably not like anything overly fancy, just fancy enough so you just know. You just look at him and you're like, you spent a lot on that fucking shirt, didn't you, buddy?
That's a $400 shirt, and I could get that basically that same shirt for $5 at the Salvation Army. But sure, buddy. All right, so Meliora shows up right on time, and it's not a proxy self. It's not one of the armored artifices that she uses. It's the actual living, breathing Meliora in the flesh. She is, of course, shadowed by Velius. Velius is there. He's always there. He doesn't look happy to be here, by the way. His tail is flicking, and he's wearing a mask, which means he's here to fight if he needs to. But he just kind of lurks off to the side, with his arms folded, and his ears flattened against his head, as Meliora walks up. And Meliora is dressed stunningly. It's very much this could be a date, but just enough. This is just enough not a date to where he doesn't catch on. This is absolutely a date right off the look. But very much, this is potentially very much a capital D date attire, and she looks gorgeous. Long blonde hair, sharp blue eyes. Just stunningly gorgeous lady, like very muscular. right? She, like, break a melon in her legs, kind of muscular. But yeah, she walks up, smiles at him, very charming smile, says, "Ah, it's you came. It's thank you. It's good to see you. It's been too long."
You're not one to come out for any old thing, Meliora. What do you want?
Ah, I thought my correspondence made it abundantly clear, Marcus. I'm here for pleasure. And she gestures to a table. Shall I get us some wine? I hear the Riesling here is good.
Very well.
So settle down. She does, in fact, order like a fancy white Riesling. And the waiter pours them, and she doesn't even acknowledge the waiter is there. They're like not even a person to her. Very telling in comparison to what Deliverance pretends to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she looks over the menu and she orders something opulent. I don't. It's fancy, and she says, "I'll cover this, by the way. It's on me. So go wild, whatever wild is for you."
I think he just goes with, like, probably steak and potatoes. Good old combination.
Of course, get you that steak and potatoes. I'm gonna say she probably gets like lobster and like other fancy rich people food. Um, so yeah, while they're waiting for the food, she begins to speak. How is I know I said we were going to talk about pleasure, but before that, very quick performative discussion of business. How are things with Harrison Armory?
As good as always.
That is pleasant to hear. Eh, tell me a little bit about yourself, Marcus.
And what, pray tell, do you want this information for?
Sometimes you just want to get to know somebody. Is it not enough justification that I am interested in you? As a person.
We're both business people, Meliora. Our businesses are different, but business is business no matter what form it takes.
Ah, but all work and no play. You've heard that to its ultimate conclusion.
I'd prefer not to meander like any of the other CEOs or anyone on Athena. I'm a man of business. That's it. Harrison Armory is doing fine. We make good mechs. I spearhead a lot of the designs.
Have you been working on any designs interesting lately?
Yes.
Intriguing. You know, you have quite the brilliant mind. It's admirable, attractive even. She leans forward to like expose cleavage, and it's having absolutely zero effect on him, probably.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying her best.
Alright, if we're asking personal questions, why the NAP?
Ah, well, it seemed a strangely convenient timing. What with Halloween coming up and all, a good time to allow my people, our people, to relax and kick back and enjoy this auspicious holiday. But as I'm certain you've overheard, the Common Front did sabotage our flagship, the Shepherd's Crook. So those two things coinciding meant that we could no longer continue forward. And I'm willing. I was approached by Boundless, and they suggested that maybe we entertain the idea of putting cooling things down for a bit. And I am, of course, a person who is willing to entertain the idea that perhaps, suffering and struggle and oppression can come to an end in this galaxy. It is, after all, a desire of mine. So I was willing to hear it out and give a good faith effort towards showing that is something that I desire as well. And we shall see if the Common Front is just as dedicated to their principles as I am to mine and ours.
I see. So I take it you don't date old, then? You sound a lot like Largo.
Well, if you were asking me about my age, Marcus, which, by the way, is very rude, she laughs. I am several hundred years old because of time dilation and time travel. Well, as you move through ships throughout space and blink gates, it ages you.
Yes, I'm aware.
But I am around, I guess before I started doing the time dilation thing, it's around 33. It's about where I am now. Time weighs heavy on you, even in that space between time. Old enough
I
to
think
consent and know what it is to do such a thing. Sorry, didn't mean to speak over you.
at, at this point, Marcus is just keeping eye contact but looks wholly uninterested.
How old is Marcus?
It's not a flirtatious
Yeah,
look.
how old is Marcus?
Hmm. I forget if I gave him an exact age. I'd probably pin him like 40s, 50s, maybe 60s. He's sort of the in-between age, with Largo West being the oldest CEO and Garth being the
Yeah,
youngest.
he is a bit uncomfortably old for somebody who's 33 to be pursuing, but it's not outlandish.
Hmm.
All right, so she smiles pleasantly and she says, do you feel that this is an inappropriate attraction?
Honestly, yes. When I heard tales of you, Meliora, I will admit I was intrigued about the woman who was guiding deliverance through the galaxy. But to be honest, this is lackluster.
She smirks and leans back in her chair and folds her arms or folds her fingers over each other neatly. And there's a sheen on her glasses, and she says, "I see. Well, that is because I did not come here for business. I came here for pleasure. But if you're here for business," and the energy in the room suddenly shifts, and it's supernaturally
Several
cold.
people just ask for their checks.
Yeah, people begin to leave. Then we shall begin with business. And she says, I am aware of your connections with the black market.
And is that your preferred venue?
It is not. I would prefer to cut out the middleman. And I'm fully capable of doing so. She meets eyes with him.
Now that's a bit better to hear.
If he noted, out of the corner of his eyes, he can see the big Lang guy do a flex. As in, she could do so with the snap of her fingers right now, actually.
A far more entertaining proposition. Quite frankly, I prefer simple
Then,
business transactions. I don't like the fluff.
well, now I know how to approach you. So be it. The prices that you ask for your wares, let us negotiate something more reasonable.
You wouldn't be the first to approach us, but you are, of course, the most interested. Common Front prefers to make do with their own equipment. They seem like the type satisfied with the black market. Athena is satisfied with SSC. A whole lot of flash, but if they actually took that equipment to battle, I do wonder how long it would keep up, especially under Wolf's son. A pale imitation of his father.
Most of us are pale imitations of our parents.
So, let me put it simply then. Harrison Armory is already dominant. We have our goals set, and they don't particularly pertain to Overture. We begin here, we are not anchored here. So whoever wins in the end is not particularly my concern. Tell me, Meliora, do you believe your destiny is set?
I know how my story will end, Marcus, and you don't have to be a part of it. But how your story ends within my story is something you have complete control over.
Overture's Overture's just a stepping stone. So, it would seem you're more confident than this little date let on. I will negotiate then.
Uh, I also have dreams for the universe. We shall do our best, I hope, to stay out of each other's way. Currently, my our pursuits, that is Deliverance's pursuits, have been off of IPS mechs mostly, but I would like to add more Harrison mechs to our array, for I see the potential in them to deliver good things to the galaxy. That is what we stand for in all things.
There is no better way to clear the... what do you call them? Insubordinates? Something like that?
Oh, there is no such thing as a truly insubordinate person. Only a person who has not found the right way yet. Everybody can be convinced with the right leverage and motivation. And Velius, gives you a look.
Very well then. We'll help you keep the battlefields clean.
Clean is preferable, though I am more than capable of doing dirty.
They do that too.
I know. Well, this was not the pleasure I was hoping to have, but it was a pleasure. She finishes her meal. She stands. In all things Deliverance, Marcus Steele.
Yeah, sure.
She pays for the check so that he doesn't have to, and she moves over, and Velius just slides in behind her, gives him a look, and that you're unnoticed look, like I could end you, and follows her out, and they leave.
Marcus just snorts.
Okay, so this next one is just super cute. This happens shortly after, immediately after Velius is sped away from the planet Velen after he is fake killed in the Garat uprising. And the only place that he can really stay now is with his new roommate, Lionel Belmont. So he brings his wife, who is pregnant, and his 4-year-old son with him to check out his new digs. Enjoy this really adorable pilot log.
So, Lionel lives in a bit of a small house. He is currently just cleaning and trying to get everything prepared. Not too much square footage in his place. He's got possibly even a little more garden space than he does indoor living, but he has one guest bedroom, which isn't going to help that much in the roommate situation he's about to have, so the house is a bit of a mess as he tries to just figure out where to sleep, have to make bed out of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Argento was the one who secured Velius's like deadness and delivery. Is Argento also the one who brings Velius and Velius's family over, or is that kind of passed off to somebody else?
I think General Argento would be the one. Like, he didn't even bring that many soldiers to that particular event. A, because he didn't really want to risk his men, but also, B, the fewer people involved, the better.
Does Argento know the full story of why Velius was fake killed and what his situation is?
Hmm. Uh, Probably not like the full story, full story. I think Lionel would tell him everything he needs to know, sort of, and like I think he'd definitely tell Ulysses about the reports, so he knows that much.
The report of what actually happened on
Yes, to
that
the
planet
shepherd's
on
crook.
Velen. Okay, so yeah, basically how this will start is while Lionel gets like a ring on the matchmaker.
Hello?
It and it's Svava, and it's just like just a quick text message. She doesn't have time to sit there and actually talk to him, and she does apologize for that because she does like to sit and talk with him. They've probably been talking back and forth a lot, right, as often as she can because she's fond of him.
Oh, it's a text. I didn't need to say hi. Okay.
But yeah, it's basically a quick text. I'm so sorry, I don't have time to talk. I've got to go do something. I'm probably gonna get my ass kicked, but with mission success. He died. You've heard the official story. He's on his way to you now. Please explain to him what's really going on. How Vadim Riesling wanted him dead, and this was the only way to keep him alive. And then I'll talk to him using this matchmaker of yours as soon as I can. And hopefully he won't get into a big temper or anything like that. If he does, if his temper fires up, they like to have their ears scratched. Just scratch his ears, and he should just like melt. It works every time. It's perfect. Good luck. Thank you, Kovanen. He like it's a lowercase k Kovanen. You have no idea what that means.
Wait, I thought it was
Oh, no, it says
whatever.
thank you, comma Kovanen, and then
Okay.
dash Svava. Right? So what?
Okay. That's
And then
okay.
like
Sure.
I guess Argento rings the doorbell, like literally, just that kind of surreptitious timing. During the walk from the shuttle that landed with Velius in it to Lionel's house, Velius is like, "What the fuck? What's going on?" He's so confused. He's happy to see his wife, right? Yisa's there, and she's like, "It's the sexual, like the sex dimorphism in Sassarar. Are female Sassarar actually bigger and even more muscular than men?" So Yisa's like almost 8 foot tall and just like built like a fucking monster truck next to Velius, who is already tall and built like a monster truck. Yisa's a bigger, badder monster truck.
She's the full Truckosaurus.
Yes. So
Uh,
this giant, almost 8 foot tall lion ram lady is standing next to Argento, and her smaller but still sizably intimidating spouse is flustered but happy to see her. And his tiny, precocious kid, he's probably like 5 foot tall right now, is like running around like talking in a language that the translator AI can pick up, but it's still like 4-year old gibberish, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, they get to the door.
It just
Lionel
Argento
opens up.
doesn't even answer. Yeah, it's just like you'll get your answers soon, right? Yeah, basically.
Yeah, Ulysses just makes eye contact with Lionel. He's like, "We'll talk later," and he just turns around and leaves.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Welcome, everyone. You must be General Velius.
I guess I'm not general anymore, am I? Yisa has to duck to get through the doorway. That's how big she is.
Mm-hmm.
Haplo
Okay.
bursts past Lionel and rushes in and starts immediately sowing chaos.
Oh, okay. That's. So, first things first. Glad to see you made it all safely. I
What's going on? Is this a dream? Did I die?
Well, no. Lucky thing is, that was all staged to make it look like you died, specifically so you wouldn't die, because Deliverance would have killed you for certain if we hadn't pulled this.
What? Why? That's Yisa is the one speaking. I don't have a special voice for Yisa. Sorry, but Yisa turns and says, "What? Why? He's been nothing but loyal."
Well, about that. Um, Recently I was doing investigation into the incident at the Shepherd's Crook, the Deliverance's ship, and as it turns out, the Common Front who was blamed for the damages to the ship could not have possibly have damaged the ship.
But I could have. That's Velia speaking.
Well, according to Deliverance, yes, Svava believed that they would have absolutely blamed you and had you killed, in part for perceived damages to the ship, but also because, well, you're comparatively nice to the kind of people they would want, you see.
That's what. Yeah, that's why. That's what they stand for, isn't it? He's like suddenly like his eyes are darting around in his sockets. It's like what's going on? He's starting to learn some really harsh truths right now. And then two things happen. One, Haplo has found the kitchen and he is banging pots and pans and you've left kitchen stuff out and he is causing disruption.
Oh,
And
please
two,
don't.
the ringer on the matchmaker goes off because you've got another message via the matchmaker.
Hold on a sec. Got a text. Meh.
Leah says, "I will go take care of our son." Yisa, figure, please help. It's such a wife guy, right? Needs his wife's guidance. Yisa nods and gives him like like rubs his ears, and they melt instantly the second you rub their ears. And he rushes off to go take care of his son.
Alright, so yeah, Lionel checks the text real quick.
The text is another message from Svava, but it's just here it is, and then a paste of the report that Vadim just presented to Meliora of what implicates Velius in everything.
Oh, okay. Alright, Velius.
Velius is not here right now. He's in the kitchen, trying to negotiate the pots and pans away from a 4-year-old. It's going very well for him.
Lionel walks over and just says calmly to the kid, "If you put those down now, I will make you chocolate later."
Wow. Bribery works. He takes you very literally and just drops the pots and pans to the ground.
That's my wording. Anyway.
That was your fault. Sorry. Yisa strides over and leans in the doorway to listen in on this conversation.
How familiar are you with former General Vadim Riesling?
2. Intimately familiar. Not that kind of intimate, babe. Yisa was not even threatened.
Lionel hands over the reports. This was by him. It turns out Svava's hunch was quite correct, and it would seem this happened in the nick of time.
Yeah. Yisa grunts and says, "The news of your death, babe, is just getting out into space as we speak. So this is perfect, for lack of a better word. No, perfect is the right word. Timing, sweetheart. Svava went through all this trouble just to keep me alive? But I'm useless like this now." Yisa does not look happy to hear that from him. Haplo is also not happy to hear his dad call himself useless and starts arguing with him.
Well, first and foremost, this should be obvious, but you are far more useful alive than dead. Second off, being alive in its own right is a right, so use does not factor into this sort of thing. In any regard, Svava likes you quite a bit, and, well, in interest in a good working relationship, I helped her with this. I don't know you terribly well, but I'm glad we were able to help.
He looks up from the report, which he's glowering because, like, Adam smeared him so much, right? He was on his way to that planet to literally visit his wife. He was not on the way to the planet to do any other kind of anything, right? To poison any ore or anything like that. So he glowers and he looks up, but then like his ears perk at Lionel's wording. Like they even twitch, and he looks up and says, "You had a hand in this. You were involved."
Oh, minimally. I was just the contact. The man who escorted you, General Argento, he did most of the work. It's his position, give or take.
I need to know everybody who was behind all of this. And he says, like, "Sweetie," like in this exasperated tone. And he's like, "No, you know what it means for us when we owe people our lives." He looks back over at Lionel and says, "I owe you my life. And a life is a difficult thing to repay."
That is correct. I. Boy, I'm not used to this.
Yisa rolls her eyes and says, "It's Lionel explained the weird cultural thing my dumb husband is doing later."
But regardless, for the time being, once Svav is able, we have a way for you to contact her without being traced by Deliverance, so we'll do so.
How did you achieve that?
That was. How familiar are you with Vadim's daughter, Quinn Riesling?
He has a daughter? Oh yes, right. The child from the party. Gosh, that was like 8 years ago. She was cute back then, precocious, troublesome. She smiles fondly over at Hapla, who is also being troublesome because he's getting bored. He has opened up your fridge and he is like delving through your fridge. He's taken the plums from your icebox, Lionel, and he is eating them.
I was saving those! uh, so, yes, it is actually Quinn's, device. Well, she knows her way around a machine, it would seem.
You're and it's untouchable. Like Deliverance cannot crack it.
The fact that Svava has contacted me with no worry about what will happen on her ends is fairly telling.
That was 8 years. He starts doing some math on his fingers. She's what, 15 now?
16, I believe.
He looks like in awe. This is stupid. Yisa like laughs and says, "Well, I guess we will be using that. Do you have space for us here? You have a room? We'll try and find a place to put our child."
I have a couple of rooms. I don't know if the bed is quite big enough. I've been doing some. He just waves his arms around. Stuff to try and make space for a three extra person household.
"Yeah, I'll be 4 soon enough," says Velius with a smirk. Yisa rolls her eyes. "Maybe I'll get an abortion." "You will not." They like look at each other.
Well, 3 or 4 or 10 or 20, even if I don't have the physical space, make no mistake, I do have plenty of food, which, in the meantime...
You are now out of plums, however.
If you could, take some time to write down your dietary, any habits or restrictions or anything I might need to know, it would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, I will sort of just do my own thing into infinity.
Oh, well, we can largely, for the most part, eat whatever. Originally, we were consummate carnivores, but we can eat potatoes and vegetables now, but we need a lot of protein in order to keep going. We can obviously eat plums. He's just looking over at Haplo, who has eaten all the plums and is now moving on to whatever else is in your fridge.
Well then, that. Well then, Velius, is there anything else I can say, or would you prefer to just give your nerves a rest for a few minutes?
I guess I need to use this system of yours to reach out to Swava and get the full story. This does not bode well for the galaxy. He says, tapping at the report that you shared with him. Vadim Riesling will surely take my place, and Deliverance will be going on the warpath again. And he's not called the Butcher of Gale for nothing, Lionel.
Indeed, I understand that. But, well, we have to have lunch no matter what, so...
Additionally, I'm not comfortable just taking from you. I need to be able to repay you back somehow. For the food, the shelter,
Lionel just places
everything.
both of his hands on Velius'
The
shoulders.
plums, he keeps talking. Velius is, how tall is Lionel? Because Velius is like 7'6" or something like that.
Inevitably, like, I haven't figured out his height, but inevitably he is shorter. He still does it. Looks him in the eyes from below. To be honest, eating my food is actually repayment of sorts. Probably not all at once, I'm sure, but I would be delighted if you would just relax and have lunch.
He looks a little baffled, and Yisa like gives him a pat and says, "It's a weird human cultural thing. Like you're doing the life debt weird Susserar cultural thing, babe." He says, "Ah, okay then, so be it." He smiles a little awkwardly, and he's like, "I don't know how to not be doing what I normally do. I've been a soldier for Deliverance since I was Quinn's age, a little older."
I see. Well, if the galaxy is in as much of a threat as we believe, then once things are a little calmed down around here, there's a chance you'll still go back to soldiering. Clearly not for Deliverance, of course, but, unfortunately, we're not out of need of your skill set just yet.
And then you have it. It is yours. And Yisa scoffs and says, "I was kind of hoping you'd do a little bit less soldiering eventually, sweetheart." And I'm sure we'll be able to find a happy medium, my love. She snorts. Says, "We'll see. I don't think you can do anything in half measures, Velius." Yisa looks over at Lionel and says, "Do you need help in the kitchen? Or do you got this?"
Well, technically I've got this. Now that being said, and he looks down at the child who is just eagerly looking through the fridge.
He has actually climbed into the fridge.
Well then, I suppose we'll start with, what do you think we should be having?
Oh gosh, what would Havlo want? What is in the fridge right now?
Oh, there's so much.
Haplo grabs the eggs, because of course, eggs, come on, you can't do wrong with eggs, and he wants eggs for sure. Loves eggs. He grabs like the carton of eggs and like the stick of butter. I don't know how we're gonna mix eggs and butter. That's Cooking Mama's problem to solve. And he's got but he has enough room in his hands to grab a third thing. So he's got eggs and butter, and he grabs like, cilantro. You got eggs and butter and cilantro. You can do something with this, right?
Well, and then he puts the stuff on the counter. Let's see, if that's what you're giving me, I could also throw in, let's see, this and this and this. And he just starts pawing through ingredients and just putting them on the counter. And I think the scene just sort of fades off from there.
Yeah. How will, Velius does, badger Lionel until Lionel gives him the whole list of everybody who was involved and making sure that he is, still alive. He owes them a life debt, and that's a big thing to the Susserar. and he'll start contacting General Argento, like trying to figure out what can I do to repay you, what is my life worth to you. So you'll let me know, I guess, in text messages what General Argento requests back from Velius in exchange for Velius's life. Um, because it's not what Velius's life is worth to him that he has to repay. It's what his life was worth to General Argento that he has to repay. Yisa, asks Lionel if he drinks alcohol.
Cut over to Lionel showing her his wine cellar.
Oh yeah, she goes through and makes Amontillado jokes as she's pawing through, and like gets like the good stuff. And she says, we also the Sosura, we make wine. I'll get you some from us." And she's such a wine. She starts wine momming with Lionel, and yeah, we can end the scene there. But yeah, after Lionel cooks,
foreign wine.
So go ahead.
I'm just chanting foreign wine at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like after Lionel cooks, everybody will eat, and it's just a lion family. Lionel with 3 lions just hanging out, drinking wine, and talking as Velius sends out messages to Svava and waits for messages back. Yep, end of the pilot log. Yay!